Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here tonight on this wonderful snowy day. We're so glad you're here, and we're so excited to be able to make some music for you tonight. I think you're really going to enjoy hearing the work of Symphonic Orchestra and Symphonic bands together in the concert tonight. What we do on a daily basis is get together and build community and explore great art. And so one important part of that is getting on stage. It's not the most important part, but it is an important part of it. So we're happy here to share with our community some great art. Here to tell you about the very first piece, Mr. Jake Miller.
The first piece that the Symphony Orchestra will be performing is My Heart Ever Faithful from Cantata 68 by Baroque composer Johann Sebastian Bach. Often regarded as one of the greatest composers, Bach wrote over 1,000 pieces of music and is often credited with establishing Western harmony. The lyrical arrangement features moving lines through the ensemble and the continuous development before returning to the original melodic ideas.
popular music in the world. Their inventive songwriting and production changed the way music was consumed in popular culture in ways that they're still being felt now 60 years later. Originally recorded with a string-like quartet instead of guitars, it only seemed natural that tonight we will hear the Symphony Orchestra perform this arrangement of Eleanor Rigby for string orchestra.
Honor Hallelujah, arranged by Paul Radio, is a hot selection for a string orchestra featuring rich harmonies. This traditional folk tune is often sung while celebrating Hanukkah. Listen to the cellos introduce the original melody to later be joined by each group of instruments. We hope you and yours have a happy holiday season filled with music no matter how you celebrate.
holiday music by Paul O'Neill and Robert Quintel. As seen in the mind-boggling Trans-Siberian Orchestra stage show, this thought-provoking melody of the Christmas tunes describing lone cellists playing Christmas carols in the midst of the Bosnian War. This piece reflects the drama of a single musician in the midst of a war, reflecting on the power of music to bring hope. We wish to thank Mr. Reed, Mr. Knell, and the musicians from the symphony bands for making this collaboration happen. Happy holidays. Happy holidays from the Symphony Orchestra to you and yours.
Well, good evening again, and thank you so much for coming. Let's give one more round of applause for that Symphony Orchestra. This sounded amazing. My name is Benjamin Reed, and before we start the Symphonic Band portion of the program, I just have a few thank yous. First of all, thank you so much to Horn and Light and Sound for always making our concerts look and sound so professional. Will you join me in thanking them? Also, on your way in, you noticed the Music Boosters had a table set up with some awesome merchandise. We are so lucky here in Saline to have an amazing booster organization that is very vibrant and active, providing really amazing opportunities for these students from the youngest grade levels all the way through the end of their time here in Saline. We had so many volunteers working sessions, all those many games this fall, those home football games. So thank you so much to the Music Boosters for all of your time and efforts to support these students. Will you join me in thanking the Boosters? We're very grateful for the wonderful administration and staff that we have here at Saline High School as well. They do so much to support these students, and we really appreciated them being on board with talking us through today and making sure that we were good to go for this concert tonight. Thank you so much to our wonderful administration and staff. Join me in thanking them as well. One other thing that you probably saw on the way in was that tuba bell out front. Over the past several years, we have been collecting donations to support a program called Crescendo Detroit, which offers after-school music and mentorship programs to students in Detroit. It's a really, really wonderful program, and we've been really lucky to be able to share with them and to donate to support their program. Over the past several years, we have collected donations in excess of $15,000 to support that program. And so we wanted to make that available to you tonight. If you want to drop anything in that tuba bell, we would certainly welcome it and pass it along to them. So thank you so much for your support with that. Just one other quick reminder for you marching in folk in the audience. You saw my parents' square earlier, marching in pictures tomorrow. Drop in whenever you're able to turn that time window. Without any further ado, we hope you enjoy the Symphony Band concert.
In 1909, Alexander Lithgow received a march that had been rejected by a publisher years earlier for a special contest for the Invercargill Garrison Band. After its premiere and publication in America 4 years later, Lithgow's march became incredibly successful. Invercargill March is best known for its stately themes combined with its gripping melodic content. In a poll of 1,000 band musicians, this march was voted 21st most popular march of all time.
Ecclesia by Michael Markowski was first conceived as a piece for choir with original text. In Greek, the title refers to a place where people would assemble for a common purpose, perhaps to think, to pray, or to debate. The piece calls us to gather simply to make music and to celebrate the time we have together. Please enjoy Ecclesia.
South Louisiana. Today, there are nearly 1 million of French-speaking
of the Acadians living in Louisiana and part of Texas, preserving many of the customs, traditions, stories, and songs of their ancestors. In this piece of the composer, Frank DeKelly, takes two Cajun folk songs, the Belle of the Capricorn and Belle, and weaves them into a beautifully composed work for band. Listen for the sad beat of the melody in the first movement and the upbeat, spicy, syncopated rhythms of the second. We hope you enjoy Cajun folk songs by Frank DeKelly.
Winterscapes by Gavin Hunt captures the magic of a wintry journey, painting scenes of crisp snow-covered landscapes and forest-drawn sleighs gliding over icy trails, accompanied by the invigorating chill of winter air. The piece begins with a lively and spirited introduction that mirrors the brisk pace of a sleigh ride with bumps and all. Throughout the song, fragments of familiar carols weave seamlessly in and out. The unpredictability of sleigh rides and snowball fights comes to life with dynamic contrast, abrupt tempo changes, and contrasting moods, reflecting on the ever-shifting scenery. Thank you again for coming tonight, and please enjoy Winterscape.
Thank you.